Oh boy, time now for another episode of Mr Nailsin Sunday Comics. And continuing on now with these old criminals. That's right. Greed and power were gods he worshipped, and the bodies of his victims were burnt offerings to his lust. But he made the mistake of passing judgment on two who were as ruthless as himself. Frankie Yale, the Al Capone of Brooklyn. He held a strange power over the members of his race. His authority was unquestioned. His judgment was the court of last resort among Sicilians. And he exploited them to the limit, growing rich on their loyalty. But he couldn't win an argument over a Tommy gun. You two heard what I said. Either you two take the rap for the murder or you get death in a one-way ride. You won't get more than life for it, but after all, I'm too important to rot in jail.
Yeah, Frankie, yeah, but murder? We take the rap for murder.
They started out as three friends, if you could call their type of companionship friendship. For never were there three more deadly, unscrupulous, and vicious killers assembled in one place. Their names were Johnny Torrio, Al Capone, and Frankie Yale. This is principally the story of Frankie Yale. This is the last round, you guys. I got a little business to attend to.
Listen to him, Al. Frankie says he has business. Some lousy candy store stick-up, I bet. That's all there is in this stinking town of Brooklyn.
There's dough in this burg you guys never dreamed about. Wait around a couple of hours, I'll prove it.
Well, I'll be here all right.
We couldn't think of anything better than waiting and seeing you latch onto some real dough. Maybe we could make a touch. Yale's path led him to a poor neighborhood. He eased up to an alley and... Okay, Frankie, here's the grand in advance. How do I know you won't double-cross me? Stow the bull, fat boy. I always keep a promise. Besides, if I didn't, you'd hire somebody to knock me off.
Who is... Oh, it's you, Frankie. What do you want to do? Place a bet?
No, I want to collect one you did the fat boy out of.
Don't point that gun, Frankie. Honest, I was gonna see Pat tomorrow. Look, I got the dough all stashed away for him.
That's all I wanted to know. Oh, brother, over $2,000. And my contract with Fat Boy only called to knock off this bum. Outside, that was a shot, all right. And it came from there, about the 4th floor. You take the alley, Clancy. I'll go in the front way. Those dumb cops will never get me. I could do this running blindfolded. Well, how'd it go, Rockefeller? Hey, you're out of breath. If you're leading the bulls up here and we don't want any part of you, you have to alibi for me, see? I've been here playing pool all night with you, see? I took plenty. I'll make it right with you guys, see? It was just after Yale returned, while he was chalking up his cue, that the heavy-set man came softly up behind him. Which one of you guys is okay, big boy? What's the charge? If you think you're gonna hand me anything, you're nuts. I've been here playing pool all evening. Ask Johnny Torrio. Ask Al.
Who did you think I was? The police commissioner? I'm looking for Torrio. Johnny Torrio. There's a guy named
Colosimo out in China, Chicago, that has some work for him. Big Jim, sure, I know Colostomy. What's the angle, bud? Who's he want knocked off? The first break in the association of the three deadly pals did not end their alliance. In time, streets were to run red with blood. In time, each was to hate the other in murderous lust for wealth and power. Torrio went to Chicago to act as bodyguard for Big Jim Colosimo, a notorious gangster of that city. Capone, who had not yet reached his peak, was a waterfront ruffian, fighting, robbing, while Frankie Yale grew rich by exploiting labor and powerful through becoming the head of the Union Sicil. I don't know. In the eyes of whose members he ruled supreme. There they are. Yes, we obey Frankie. So anyway. There is, for example, another instance when Yale was hired as an assassin. For a moment, he stood looking down at his victim. This killing would put a couple of grand in his pocket. But suddenly, there was a sound behind him. There he is. Get him. Kill him if he runs. Well, if it isn't Frankie Yale. Imagine meeting you here. You coppers give me a laugh. You can't tag me with this job. I just heard the shot and came to see what it was.
Yeah, and I suppose the killer was just... What? I suppose the killer just left the gun where you could find it.
We'll see if it's the gun that killed him.
Drop dead, copper. I tell you I didn't do it. I ain't saying nothing else. You'll get the rest from my mouthpiece.
Let's see you get out of that one, Yale.
Get my mouthpiece, do you hear? Get my mouthpiece for me. I'll show you compass whether I did that job or not.
On the day Yale spoke with his lawyer, there was enacted one of the greatest injustices ever posted upon the democratic ways of our courts, yet thwarted as she was for the moment, justice in the end would triumph.
Get in touch with Tony Musica and Mike Lasagna. You know what to tell them. Tell them they got two choices, prison or death.
Okay, Frankie. I'll get them to my office. There's no question what they'll do.
You men know you didn't do that murder. You know you're protecting Yale. Maybe you'll die in the chair. At least it'll be prison for life.
Maybe you'll die in the... But anyway.
No, we did the murder. Frankie, yeah, no, do it. We signed the paper. That means we make the murder.
That was the supreme power held by Yale as the head of the Union Sicilian. I don't know what I'm doing. From his decisions, there was no appeal. Once out of prison, while the two members went to jail for life, Yale began building more and more power. Look, why do we have to kick into Yale? The lousy racketeer, I'm not paying.
That's up to you, bud. The outfit protects you from anything like accidents.
He waxed fat and rich, shaking down labor. Those who opposed him suddenly found themselves the victims of unaccountable accidents. Hell, my head. Look, Joe, he fell from the scaffold. He was hit by a brick. Well, these things happen. In the next few years, the inseparable trio showed signs of their loyalty to one another. Capone went to Chicago to assist Torrio, and then, one day, in Brooklyn.
Well, Johnny Torrio, here you've been doing all right in Chai. How's Al?
He's fine, Frankie. He's one of my strong-arm men. I could use some of your services, Frankie. Colosimo is a pretty big shot in Chai. Too big. I figure that I could become even bigger. Oh, with Prohibition in. I figure a smart man could get rich out there.
If Colosimo had an accident, what would be in it for Frankie?
On the 12th of May, 1920, about 4:30 in the afternoon, Big Jim Colosimo walked outside his Chicago restaurant, presumably to meet someone by prior arrangement. What he met instead was a skull and a pistol. Yeah. Oh, blam. Alert, police spotted Yale in the Chicago station 3 minutes before train time.
We want to talk to you, Yale, about the murder of Colosimo.
What? I don't know Colosimo. I came to Chicago on personal business. So, you find a rod on me? Well, I got a permit to carry it. But murder? You cops are crazy.
Sooner or later, we'll catch up with you, Yale. If not this time, well, I don't know, some other time.
It was never proven who killed Colosimo. There were no witnesses. Well, that's right. It happened. Anyway, and Yale's revolver did not match the slugs that killed Big Jim. Well, there you go then. In time, Yale grew even more powerful in Brooklyn.
It would be wise for you to start getting your beer from Yale. Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. Getting your beer from Yale, mister.
I'm satisfied where I get my booze. Just mind your own business and I'll mind mine. So long, brother. There were some like this man who dared to stand up to Yale, but they didn't last long.
That may change his mind. If not, there are plenty more where that one came from.
Boom. There goes his bar, I guess. Well, anyway. So by 1924, Yale had come far. His meeting with his gang of cutthroat underlings was held in as lavish a setting as any bank boardroom. Their business was carried on with the same directional efficiency.
The report says that saloon keeper on Canal has been cheating. Drop a pineapple on his front porch. That dope from uptown that's been horning in, better take him for a ride. Here we got a stool pigeon around town. You guys know who he is? Dig him a ditch out in the dump.
There you go. Must have been their founder, yeah. So anyway, and the Capone-Torrio partnership had grown by leaps and meters. Out of their immense profits had come competition. Other gangs were jealous of the wealth. Protection of their rights meant war. Gang war. Boom, 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 boom. The Bugs Moran crowd had opened up on Torrio one day and laid him up for weeks when he was well enough for a conference with Capone. Pulled his tooth. Anyway, I'm pulling out of here. I'll sell everything I got for as much as you could dig up. I'll pay $1 million for the whole thing, Johnny. Cash money. And so, for a fraction of its value, Capone bought out his pal Torrio. It just so happened that about that time, Mike Merlo, head of Chicago's Union Solution, lay in the city hospital.
He's dead. Merlo is dead.
Now, notify his family. Someone would have to take Merlo's place as head of the organization of Chicago's 40,000 Sicilians. The word had to come from New York, from Frankie Yale.
I got a man named Lombardo, Frankie. He's just the boy to take over. I would like you to name him Chicago head.
Sure, Al, sure.
But sometime later, Joseph Aiello, one of Bugs Moran's gangsters from Chicago, made a personal call on Yale.
Hey, you been thinking of appointing Tony Lombardo, Frankie. Well, Bugs Moran don't like it any, and it ain't gonna be long before Moran runs Capone out of chai. Moran thinks I can handle the Union better than Lombardo. You got me wrong, Joe. I haven't made a decision yet.
Yale knew he was in a spot. He hardly slept for weeks. He would have liked to have played along with Capone, but he couldn't overlook the power of the Bugs Moran gang. Suddenly, he found what he thought was the solution.
I have it. I'll make both Lombardo and Aiello joint heads of the Chicago Union.
When Capone got the word of Yale's decision,
why, that
dirty double-crossing rat. Me, his pal, he louses up. I'll fix him. I'll put the finger on him. If not today, well, some other day. Yale could not have made a worse decision. Friction between the Union of the Silesians in Chicago and the headquarters in New York grew steadily worse. By 1928, their hate for each other knew no bounds. On July 1st, 1928, as Yale drove through Brooklyn, a smooth black sedan suddenly swerved down the street, cutting him off. Hey, you, move over. Where do you think you're going? Hey, you don't know who I am, but I'll give you something to remind you. Whoops. Yale stepped out onto the road, took one step forward, and stood gasping in terror and surprise. Yeah, he doesn't like it when he's getting it. Why are you, And so, as he lived, he died. Finally, Frankie Yale lay in his own blood as a car sped off down the street. A big black swift car bearing an Illinois license. He learned what all those vice lords learned eventually. The paths of their fortunes led only to their graves. And then he released. Yeah, it's no dignity, So that's it for Frankie Yale. Who's next? Well, next week we'll take a look at Jack Legs Diamond, the devil's disciple. I guess that's Jack. Maybe that's Jack. Nah, this is probably Jack. And he likes legs, see? Hence his name. And he just happened to be of the Diamond family. What are the odds?